队伍的状态一直有在调整，学习新的套路并结合自己的打法，希望能发挥出色，迅速开胃起来。
我看了一下 WE 最近的比赛，我感觉他们正在处于迷茫期，跟我们差不多，所以到时候对战他们的话，就看谁发挥的比较好，谁就赢面会更大。
谢一杰是一个很强的个人选手嘛，但他最近好像状态不是特别好。但是初生牛犊不怕虎，我觉得我在接下来比赛中可以看出。
面对 Y4的话，他现在实力蛮强的，不过我会打出我自己的节奏这样子。
WE 现在一直在用传统的 AD 玩，那么现在也在创新，就很多套路，比如新的英雄之类的。
我觉得田野林是那种比较喜欢搞事的辅助，和他对线的时候，就尽量不要给他找到机会，我们稳扎稳打，打出下路的优势。
我的队友由我来守护，现在就让比赛开始吧。
Snake were victorious in their home arena. Now we move over to Hangzhou, where lots of fans have gathered not only to brave the typhoon, but also to watch this matchup between LGD as well as WE. Although both teams currently sitting at the bottom of their respective conferences, have a ton of fans of both quite old and historical organizations here in China. We're getting ready for that match, but it's not the only match that we have left today. We still have the match of the week coming up right after this set. The players getting ready. POL looks confused as always.
Gonna say a bit happy there. I'm not sure at what though.
A bit happy? You look absolutely confused.
You did not?
Yeah.
All right, maybe we have different facial expressions on emotions is what I've learned from this. POL.
I've got
just feeling things.
I've got Zach Muppet Pie sitting on the analyst desk with me to break down these matches as we go through them. Rusty.
Hey, hello.
How you doing? We had a nice hour break?
Yeah, we had a long break. We went to go down, get some coffee. We were free to move. Of course, that first set was a very easy 2-0 from Snake. All things considered, Vici were a bit of a mess. And this second set is a battle of who can find themselves the most. Because, speaking of mess, starting to sense that here a little bit as well, yeah.
Well, we'll break down these two teams in just a second. But before we go into our second match of today, let's take a look at our match of the week. Because later on tonight, at 7 o'clock sharp, Beijing Standard Time, we will be going into our match of the week. Rogue Warriors taking on Royal Never Give Up.
And that means that if you're watching this second set, you should be picking a 2-0 victor. Doesn't matter who you go for, pick a side, any side. But make sure it's 2-0 because you want to see the start of Rogue Warriors against Royal Never Give Up and you want to see the conclusion of this current set.
Definitely do. On top of that, we also have the last podcast left, an LPL podcast, which is up and available now on youtube.com/LPL content. That features Raz as well as Clement. Have you been on the podcast yet, Raz?
No, I got invited to this one, but I was in Xi'an, so I didn't really feel like I was available for that one. But maybe in the future, we'll see. I'm sure that Clement and Raz have a lot to say regarding the playoffs runs and the road to playoffs for a lot of the LPL teams.
Yeah, so tweet at Razaplasma if you want Rusty to appear on the podcast, and all complaints go to his Twitter handle as well. We set it up just for that. But let's get straight into this matchup.
Sweet.
It's going to be LGD taking on Team WE. Now, these two teams, although historical organizations, currently sitting at the bottom of their conferences.
Yeah, both teams, and this is the amusing narrative that doesn't mean a lot, but used to mean a lot. LGD went to Worlds 2015, arguably the best team in all of China. Since then, downward trajectory, have just kind of plateaued at the bottom at the moment, really trying to find themselves. Now, LGD have made steps and they are actively trying to find themselves, to discover that secret recipe that is there to make them a better team. Transferring a coach, or at least temporarily as well, getting new players into the roster, all of these things are good steps for LGD, where they're trying to find themselves, but it still feels like that massive fall from grace for LGD from Worlds 2015. And that is something that is echoed in terms of sentiment here by Team WE, also making it to the semi-finals of Worlds in their respective split, and then also now being last in the standings.
You see, I agree. I joined the LPL team in 2016. Now, in 2016 is where I was told LGD are falling from grace. And every single split since, it comes up when it's a time where LGD, they're on the rise again, or LGD are falling from grace again. At what point have they just hit rock bottom? Because for WE, it makes sense. They were semi-finalists at Worlds last year. They are falling from grace. Spring Split was horrible with the team being broken up. Now they're trying to put bits and pieces back together. They're trying to reform, trying to regroup. So they have fallen, but for LGD, they've been at this point in the league so many times.
Yeah, I think you've answered your own question there as well. At what point have they hit rock bottom? Well, if they're rebuilding, then I think they've already hit their rock bottom, and they're trying to find their way back up towards some kind of semblance of what they used to be. The past LGD was oppressive. They were very impressive with how they would play League of Legends as well. Minion control, teleport usage, cerebral plays from PYL. He is the one consistent member still there in the team, but he does not look anything like the PYL that we used to know and love for the plays that he was able to make in a macro sense to win the game for his team.
So you're saying that the difference between PYL 2015 and now is that macro ability and that macro shot calling is completely gone? Any other big changes from him for the past 3 years?
He's spent a lot of time playing with Imp, and those two as a duo were winning or losing lane very hard very early, and I think that was something that was also missing. The team itself lost a lot of identity. Their top laner never looked as good as the Acorns that were running around during that time as well. And the one wildcard was always God V in the mid lane, but he was still a god at moments, and only recently have we started to see really good things from Yuki. He is now a replacement in that mid lane as well. So I think that whilst PYL, a lot of things have changed for him, we have to consider that the rest of the team has also suffered from those changes, and maybe that's something that PYL hasn't really gotten fully used to yet, because now he's the captain, he's the leader, he's the shot caller, he was always a lot of those things. But now he has to do more than just that, because he's the leader, captain, and shot caller for young players.
So what's the next step for LGD? If PYL is the consistent factor for them, they brought in talent like Y4, Yuki's trying to step up in the mid lane, you've got players like Jinu on the roster as well. What is LGD's next step? Because it seems like they have the pieces of the puzzle, but they haven't completed the picture yet.
LGD's next step is closing games, to be honest with you. Like, they've got the roster. They seem to be pretty happy with the makings of this roster, with the potential that they see within this, and they are starting games off decently well. Their draft, they're getting towards drafts that they're after. Yuki getting mid-priority, roaming towards other lanes always looks promising for them. But then they hit mid-game, and I'm talking like 20+ minutes, and they're not sure what it really requires to end. Their vision control is something that they need to work on to fix that, and that's where, again, PYL does get brought into question, the man in your screen now.
They're up against Team WE today, another team that's rebuilding, and I'm sure we'll talk a bit more about their roster once we look at the lineups for these two teams. But I also have Imp on their roster, who used to be from LGD, not starting today, and only played a couple of games during the summer split.
And I would love to see Imp play this set. Imp against LGD is just so hype in my mind.
Imp versus PYL is really hype.
Yeah, separate the couple, make them fight each other. It just sounds exciting.
Give them Zaya Rakan.
Yeah, definitely separate the duos as well. But no Imp to be seen. It's going to be a different player.
It is, because for the side of LGD is Jinu, Amy, Yuki, Y4, as well as PYL.
And Amy, of course, has someone waiting in the wings in regank, but Amy does seem to look like the better jungler so far for LGD, and Y4 really starting to find himself within the roster so far.
Moving over from RNG, sat on the bench for quite some time, learnt under Uzi, and is a great player himself. For the side of Team WE, 957, Condi, Sia, Gentle, as well as Missing.
Yeah, so WE don't really have a support in this set. They cannot find him. He is missing. So the 4 strong here from WE will be the ones that you're looking at to kick this one off. Now, Gentle coming back in as well instead of Mystic is the really confusing one. Mystic hasn't looked like a poor performer. In fact, he's been able to play the majors, and he's looked very solid at times.
So what does Gentle bring to the table? Because a lot of people were saying the exact same thing. Mystic is arguably the best AD carry that they have on their roster right now. But they're still experimenting with bringing Missing in, who was one of the starting AD carries in Summer Split.
My only speculation earlier was that maybe they're trying to force themselves into duos in the bottom lane. If Missing comes in with Gentle, then there's a chance that 694 and Mystic become the other duo on the other side. And that's the other thing, you know, Gentle, we're not sure why he's coming in realistically. I know Mystic has been a solid performer, but he's been spotty. He's been on and off in terms of those performances, but you would have to expect he's got a higher ceiling, right? The support player, Missing, he hasn't, I mean, okay, so not Missing, let's talk about 694, the person who he has replaced.
Okay.
694 in his last set against Invictus Gaming looked like an absolute god, even in a defeat. That's what was impressive to me about this team, and my one takeaway from WE was, that guy's good. And then immediately subbed out the next set as well. So I really do have some questions that I'm hoping WE can answer as the set starts on what to expect from these players and what makes them better or different to the respective people they're replacing.
If I'm not wrong, 694 is Celestial?
Yes.
So he has played with the roster since Spring Split.
Yeah.
And came in with Magic at the same time. when WE had that big roster shakeup after the semi-finals appearance at Worlds last year.
That's the one.
So he's had time to work with the team. Could be an experience thing when they bring him in. Now they're trying to experiment with Missing, potentially experiment with Gentle, because although WE are at the bottom of the table, if they want to try and experiment something doing cross-conference with their roster, this would be one of the matches where you do just that.
Yeah, there's always a chance to experiment, but in saying that, I wouldn't experiment. I would pick the best thing because they are 1-7. And if you lose one of these games with experimenting, then you're just done. Like, there's no chance of a playoff run. This is 3 points that other teams in your conference may be taking from LGD. Everyone above you may be taking from LGD. And how are you meant to catch them when they've got 3 extra points that you can never get?
I mean, it's already so far. We talked about the changes that LGD have made. What about WE's changes? Do you think that they just have to, like you said, stick to one thing, or is there anything else they can improve upon?
Ben. I would love to see Ben back. I don't know where Ben's gone. If you're listening, we miss you. WE misses you. We need you back.
Yeah, Ben is missing, who is playing for the support position here today. But let's get into the first match of today. But before we do, let's hear from Y4 about traditional bottom lane AD carries.
WE 现在一直在用传统的 AD 嘛，然后我们现在也在创新，就很多套路，比如新的英雄之类的，然后。研究优势的话，研究一些新的英雄、新的套路的话，可以打得他们就措手不及。
Ooh, LGD saying that maybe they've got a little surprise planned for Team WE. Yeah, could be getting some Gouda on the rift. We're going to run. I'm Dom. We've got Clement. We just finished our first set. Now we're getting on to the second, LGD versus Team WE. And a year ago, you would have looked at this matchup and said, all right, this is a smash. This is going to be over. It's a 40-minute route. And let's get out of here. Now, this
WE are
like
on the same level.
Yeah, it looks like an even matchup.
Yeah, and it's been quite a disappointing ride so far for WE. They were one of the teams I actually pegged as doing very well in cross-conference. I felt that they were finding their stride with Mystic on the roster. He was doing 35% of their team's damage, and he was giving them purpose to go to the late game. But with this new roster swap, where they switch out Mystic, who is doing very well, I just don't know what WE are trying to do. I honestly don't.
It's certainly going to be tough for them as we get ready to get into Champion Select, because again, this is WE that, by all means, this should be a confidence game for them. This should not be something that they say, okay, we're going up against an even opponent, let's experiment with a new bottom lane, let's try some different strategies. This should be a 2-0 if WE wants to show us that they're learning and growing. That's still the standard that we hold these players towards, especially against LGD of all teams.
Yeah, definitely. LGD, another bottom team from the from the Eastern Conference here. However, WE has been having very strong early games. If you look at their stats, they're actually 6th place in terms of GD at 15, while LGD can't really even scrape by the laning phase. So I still give this matchup, even though the records may not show it, pretty heavily over to WE's side. Talking about the draft here, we do see the strong mid-jungle synergy coming out from Yuki and Amy. This is their bread and butter composition. If you're LGD, the best thing that they rely on is the individual talent from Yuki. He's their lord and savior, so they always try to give him a good matchup.
He's been doing a lot of work on Aurelia, on Zoe. He's really been stepping up on this Yasuo too. Y4, previously the AD carry for Royal Never Give Up, substitute behind Uzi and Abel. This is a guy who's got all of the mechanics to try and deal with what Gentle and Missing are going to be trying to throw out there, but lately we've been seeing him play a lot of Orianna. So I'd be surprised if that champion got through, if WE decided to let that go, because it synergizes so excellently with the Yasuo, especially when you've got the Gragas on top of that.
Yeah, and we just saw that in the previous set as well. The Shockwave into Last Breath is a deadly combination, especially for someone like the Talia that we see running. Should go to either Kandi or Xia in this case. We should talk about a little about what the compositions that WE runs when they have Gentle. It does seem like they focus more onto the mid-jungle synergy. When they were doing gold funneling, it was with Gentle on the roster. And when Gentle plays, he usually goes for more stronger early game picks like the Lucian and the Varus, as compared to something like the Ezreal coming out from Mystic. But that being said, we don't have that much footage of him. He's not played that many games.
And that's, I think, why we see that Lucian now banned away. LGD doing their prep work to come into this matchup against Gentle. But like you said, that mid jungle is so important for Team WE because it's Kandi and Xie, son of Baron, versus Xie, who had one of the best spring splits of his entire life, playing some of the best League of Legends we've ever seen from him. And now, in summer, this team is 1-7. He's still a very, very talented player, but something is missing from this team. It's no longer the band of brothers, the 5 that went to World Semifinals. Now it's second cousins grouping up to have a cup of tea.
It's like, we're probably related. We're not sure how, but, you know, we've met each other around the neighborhood a couple of times.
I've seen you once, right? Yeah, you're the guy who lives by... No, you don't live by that? All right, anyways. I can see that conversation happening. But Gangplank is the pickup for Jinnu in that top lane. He will be taking it into 957's Mundo. There's the Orianna that I was just talking about. And LGD, their composition, it's clean, it's simple, and it fits their strengths. Coach UDJ coming in for them, giving them a clear direction, and it seems to be working.
Yeah, it's a very easy composition to run. There's a lot of simple execution. You can move the last breath into the Shockwave or into the explosive cast as well. So they're just trying to give Yuki as many options as possible. Again, running a skirmish type of composition. LGD, not known for their 5v5s, but they like to fight all the time and on every single place on the map. WE, however, countering with a very strong jungle mid synergy between the Taliyah and the Zoe themselves. This is a very good comp when the enemy team is trying to run into you. Taliyah with the knockback and Zoe with the automatic bubble land.
Sleepy trouble bubble, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very strong composition against someone that wants to just face rush you.
Yeah, the big scare, though, is there's not a lot of mobility compared to a Gragas cask or a quick Shockwave, just catching someone out of position, and then Yuki immediately following up with the last breath. So if we see LGD perhaps get the drop on WE, then that could be something that's a little bit scary to look for, as both of these compositions look remarkably good if they manage to start snowball.
Yep, both teams look like they're going to have a lot of focus onto the early mid-game, or onto the mid lane from the early game. Whoever gets the lead will likely be able to snowball the entire game. You're talking about Taliyah, one of the highest damage junglers with Zoe. That's a 1 combo kill on any member of LGD. And for LGD, once they hit that level 6, the combination between explosive cask and last breath.
Yeah, the classic Wombo combo. And it is a bit risky for LGD. Again, this is a team, they have strong individual laners, Jinnu, Y4, Yuki in the mid lane, but we're looking for the connective tissue. We're looking at PYL and Amy to support these laners and get them to their power spikes.
I would like to slightly modify that statement, but so far for LGD, their only winning lane, consistently winning lane, has been Yuki in the mid lane.
Yeah.
This is their star player. You're seeing him on screen right now. He's been known as reaching 1,000 points on Korean Challenger, and you know, Amazing J said, well, if he's 1,000 points, he's probably 10 times better than my own mid laner who's at 100-point masters.
Yeah, and the contrast to that, though, is how Amy has been setting up Yuki to succeed, whereas previously renditions of LGD would see Amy try to match up with Imp and PYL on the bottom half of the map, leaving Jinnu on an island. As a side effect of constantly pressuring that mid lane, Yuki, not only does he succeed, but more often than not, Amy has more opportunities to find himself on the top half of the map, which gives Jinnu some flexibility as well.
Yeah, definitely. Their 2 big solo lane carries is what is carrying LGD forward, but they still play a very scrappy style. They're the team that we say, along with OMG, has no 5v5 identity. So a lot of it is riding on the early game like it always has been for LGD.
Now it's time to hear from the crowd. LGD versus Team WE in Hangzhou. And even in front of the home crowd, more WE fans show up to represent and out-volume LGD. Take a look at this. We've got a late recall out of Jinnu as he heads back in the lane, perhaps taking a bit of a punishment from 957, eating a cleaver perhaps. But LGD has a 4-stack.
WE is not going to go in. They're looking for the potential counter level 1, but they don't find it. You know, typically teams with Zoe and Shen do like to poke their heads in.
Missing and Gentle will step up to clear out that ward. Gentle picks up his first CS of the game on that ward. And we'll head back down into that lane. Okay, so now it looks like we've got a nice safe start to this game. Little tense with LGD because you never really can tell what they're going to do, but now everybody's heading into lanes, and I had to say something, didn't I?
Yeah,
He's going to try to sneak
You can't
down
tell,
here.
it's a level 2.
Trying to get around behind that Shen. That's the command attack. Shadow Dash hits onto PYL. He immediately walks it forward. Tongue Lash is ready. No, he tries to predict the flash, but the Ignite burning away on a missing. Auto attack in first blood. Y4 drops the Mapengu to make sure that WE know what's up. Kandi misses the seismic shove and is forced to just get some damage onto Amy instead.
Yeah, that was a really good play by the bot lane of LGD. Baiting out that taunt from the Shen meant that they could secure an easy level 2 kill. Good acting skills from PYL.
Yeah. Oh no, oh, you're killing me. Haha, just kidding.
Haha, I got the tongue lash.
And then he still did end up flashing away. So it was 4 summoner spells burnt for 2, but that is the kill advantage over to LGD. Kandi will be the first one to take the Scuttle Crab on the bottom half. After his red buff, he absolutely hoofed it down to the bottom lane as quick as he could. So a good reaction from Kandi to try and defend that bottom half, but still not able to make it there in time.
I'm pretty interested on what he's going to do with the Taliyah pick so far. Like we said, it's not been the most successful jungler. A lot of times we see it being utilized in the mid lane more than the jungle so far because of that early dueling difference. A lot of times when you run into picks like the Kindred or the Warriors, you actually have a hard time coming out ahead in the early game.
Oh, that's another Shadow Dash onto PYL. We'll absolutely have to keep an eye on Kandi. Piercing Arrow, flash auto from Gentle to get a kill back onto PYL. And for all the great acting he did, I think that time he wasn't actually acting.
Yep, PYL giveth and PYL take it away.
I mean, there is a reason that we call him the God of Death in the LPL.
We do have to say that this lane is not particularly powerful early on. Orianna is a pick that scales very well into the late game. She can one-shot the enemy AD carry when she has items. But overall, you're still looking at the Varus to really run this laning phase. And I think LGD just put themselves in a bad situation where you could see the Orianna, even with 4 or 5 auto attacks, could not dissuade the Shen.
Just too defensive at that point. Getting that Spirit's Refuge to keep on dodging those auto attacks and continue to pressure in that bottom lane. And that's just a side effect of Gentle and missing. Perhaps WE have been playing with the same 3 Xie, Kandi, and 957 and swapping out AD carry and supports behind the scenes, still looking for that perfect bottom lane to match up with the remaining other players because they do have a very large roster. So we could be seeing WE perhaps just trying to invest in this bottom lane, but like we said earlier, this is a confidence game. This should not be a risky gambit for Team WE.
WE do have a 6-man rotation in the bot lane, but currently they're looking to get another kill onto PYL, just playing the bully strategies over and over again.
It's a classic. It works out. And PYL is one of the guys who it probably works on best, but oh, that's the sweeper as well. Utilize Kandi sitting outside of vision long enough, but Amy is on this side of the map. Y4 tries to step up. Let's see if Amy heads down there or if Kandi just decides to back out with that electrocute.
Doesn't look like Kandi is going to be staying in for this one. Does go back to base, so diffuses the situation of the potential 3v3.
Pretty naturally, yeah. And that will allow the map to reset just a little bit more. Lanes continue on as is expected.
In general, when we see Gentle playing, WE do go for a faster game pace. He has a different champion pool compared to Mystic, and when he's playing, the team shifts most of their damage over towards Xie, having him be the main carry for the team. So maybe this is an answer that WE had from the last set, from Invictus Gaming, where Invictus Gaming ran them off the map in the early game, and WE are looking to match the aggression from LGD coming out pre-15 minutes as well.
Ooh, Kandi looking for Amy, finds him as he takes the Scuttle Crab. And it very well could be an answer, but right now LGD seem to be getting the better of it. They're 400 gold ahead. They've got that first blood down in the bottom lane, and Amy is actually contesting Kandi pretty successfully around these Scuttle Crabs around the map and just keeping Kandi away from those lanes.
I would want to see WE have a bigger lead pre-6. They do have a lot of strong combinations in the bot lane and in the mid jungle as well. While if it goes past level 6, I actually think it scales more over to LGD's side. They can use the Cannon Barrage from the top lane. They have their kill combo online in the mid lane as well. So for Taliyah, I think this pacing is not very good for Kandi. He needs to find a little bit more action.
He's on the prowl. Was just hunting bottom, now he's hunting top. Xie actually ticks over to level 6, and Amy walking through. He's about to be collapsed on from both sides, but they don't see him. He actually sits right in the sweet spot between the vision. Now they see him. Pings immediately go out. Kandi's finishing red buff on the other side as Amy, not close to level 6, but buys time for Y4 and PYL to push that wave in.
And we do see the teleport advantage coming out from LGD as well. Jinu able to get one out from 957 without any ganks. Very strong performance for him, and that's why we see WE are so nervous about the situation. It's not only a cannon barrage, it's also the potential for Amy to drop a ward behind the tower and make that 4v2 play.
That makes it so unsafe for Gentle and Missing to hang out down there. That Vamp Scepter will keep Gentle topped up on health, but he's not got a lot of mana. And you can already start to see some of the mana issues that this Talia is running through as well for Kandi in the jungle. He's going to have to pick and choose his battles very wisely as Amy is just constantly maneuvering about and keeping on his toes. Kandi just ticks over to level 6 and places a defensive ward.
Yep.
Shockwave. Ooh, that's good damage. And the Dissonance.
So Kandi doesn't really want to be here. He wants to be farming the rest of the map, but he has to come because they know Amy is close to this situation, and it's a pressure overflow coming from the top lane. If that ward's dropped down there, there's no one there to really rescue WE's bot lane. That's why Kandi needs to stick in that position.
And being able to rescue that bottom lane is so very important. If LGD chose to snowball it, they decide not to. And instead, just keep that lane standard. Y4 12 CS ahead of Gentle when it's all said and done. 8.5 minutes in, Amy is just hovering around this mid lane as Yuki ticks over to level 8. Is he looking for level 6 off the minions in this lane? He's still there. There it is. The portal jump now used as Shie steps forward and the cannon barrage. Amy's there. Flash body slam. Last breath. Shie actually goes golden plus the barrel, and he flashes out before Amy can detonate.
I'm just shell-shocked by that display from Shie, getting off at the split second. Faster fingers saving his life right there.
Kandi will try to use this window of opportunity to steal away the blue buff. He knows that Amy did take a turret hit there and went to the bottom half of the lane. So that is going to get Kandi a bit of an advantage over Amy. But he needs to start getting these lanes ahead, or at the very least, look for Jinu up top. That's a barrel into the wave and stand united.
Does that perfect
Kandi
timing,
steps forward, goes golden right away. Kandi takes the first hit. Teleport started and canceled by Gentle as Jinu forced to walk away. A predictive flick from Kandi keeps him in place, and they do get their second kill on the board.
Yep, and LGD are trying to look to take something away from the bottom side. Shen did use his stand united towards the top. And unfortunately, it looks like they're only going to get a little bit of chip damage. Shie outplaying the entire team of LGD.
I mean, you can already see Amy's actually on the way over here as well. PYL gets behind Gentle as Chain of Corruption misses. It's not a little bit of chip damage, Clement. It's a lot of bit of chip damage. As Gentle goes down, PYL sidesteps. Y4 takes the turret, and PYL picks him back up and carries him back in. Remember, Shie has no flash. He's caught by Amy. The Shockwave, a double kill to LGD's bottom lane. Hook, line, and sinker. WE fall for it.
And it was just such a sweet play coming out from Y4, getting the initial damage onto Gentle, making sure he was low, and then finishing up with a sweet shockwave to put Shie to sleep right there. I think the problem with WE's play was that they committed a lot of resources into the top lane, but the single kill probably wasn't enough to equalize anything. And PYL, you know, he is the Lord of Death sometimes for the enemy team as well, cutting off all routes of escape.
Panic flashing away from the paddle star too.
Yeah.
And he's able to do it. Yeah. Finds that kill onto Shie as he tries to step forward and get revenge, but lack of vision means he doesn't see Amy coming, and a quick cask locks him into place downside of portal jump. No matter which way you go, out of the portal jump, you're always coming out that same exact spot, that same exact exit, and it's an easy explosive cask for Amy to land. But now 11 minutes into the game, you can see Jinu thinking of heading towards the mid lane. Doesn't quite have the cannon barrage just yet.
Stylistically, I just think LGD is such a good counter to what WE are as a team. WE are they're a slower team, they're a late game team, they rely a lot on their 5v5 identity. Well, if you ask LGD what their 5v5 identity is, it's kind of like asking a millennial what his retirement plan is. It doesn't exist.
What's a retirement plan?
Is that something you do after you get a house and kids?
Yeah. That starts in your 40s, right?
Yeah, I think LGD, the way they play and how much pressure they put on their opponent just from the laning phase is really causing W to crumble.
Look at this. They're even pushing onto the mid-tier 1 for first brick.
No
they get the faster rotation from Gentle and Missing and take that turret, suddenly freeing up the Yasuo in a Wombo combo comp.
And that's 12 minutes in. They already have the mid turret down. Think about how much pressure that would then transfer into the side lanes. Especially the bottom side where they have so many tools to get CC chains off themselves.
Oh, and look at this. Even taking the dangerous route through the jungle to force Gentle and Missing back off the turret. Gentle has to play so far away from that minion wave. He's being denied even more CS, nearly 30 behind Y4 in this landing phase, a full level down as that wave is set to crash in. And there's still the teleport for Jinnu. There's still the cannon barrage on top of that.
You know how I said Orianna was pretty weak early on?
Yeah.
Even against marksmen?
Uh-huh.
I think the Orianna might one-shot the Gentle by now.
Oh, man. Even Amy is just sitting inside of the brush along with Yuki, just in case Kandi or Xie ever step out of position, but now they're looking to roam bottom again. Yeah, Kandi's there for the counter gank. Seismic Shove misses as Amy just steps it forward and back. And slowly but surely, this turret is getting whittled down. Minion wave after minion wave. The next one is a cannon. And you can see both teleporters have their TP up. They both have their ultimates. How's this going to shake out?
It does look like Kandi is going to be forced to help his bottom lane and try to push the waves out. As long as they're not stuck underneath tower and forced to decide between the EXP and the objective itself, I think they should be fine.
A wave crashes in. Kandi still sitting down here. Very early sweeper used by Amy as he finally steps up. Kandi still waiting for it. He's invested so much time into this.
Though.
The wave is about to crash in. Yuki joins in, and that's the combo you were talking about. Missing is caught. Shadow Dash. Yuki cleanses, continues walking it through. But the cannon barrage is used as Missing is able to escape. But that's not the target. It never was the target. It's the turret. The kills were just the icing on the cake, and LGD get to eat that tasty cake.
Yeah, for both sides, it was a bit of a risky situation. I would actually have preferred for W to simply have backed off completely, because that was a scenario if LGD all committed onto the play, especially with Orianna having flash, that would be a dead Gentle. Like, there was no way you would have avoided that. So W, you know, they try to play a little bit risky there, and they do get away with their lives, which I would consider lucky.
Yeah, the over-aggression from LGD does cost them a little bit. At low health, they have to recall, so WE get themselves a Mountain Dragon.
The most useful Drake when you're behind in the game.
Yeah, I mean, there's always the argument, right, where Mountain Drake doesn't do anything.
That was sarcasm,
unless
by the way.
You're attacking neutral objectives.
Yeah.
So theoretically, WE or LGD are okay with the trade as long as they are able to perfectly control objectives from now on. LGD.
That's actually one of Flash Wolves' favorite trade. Like, if they're ahead in tempo in the game, they will give you the Mountain Drake just for the Herald, because it's such a free win. The losing team usually can't use the Mountain Drake anyway, and you get a bigger advantage. So
that's it. We've already decided that LGD are currently losing this. They're only down 2,500 gold, a single kill and 2 turrets.
No, I don't think they're losing this. I think they're very far ahead.
WE, I mean.
Yeah, W, yeah. W are pretty far behind.
Okay,
yeah.
Well, okay. There we go. It's 20 CS ahead for 957, but that's not making up for the lead that Y4 has got, that LGD have got with all of these turrets. And certainly the blueprint is always there for LGD to take down the first 3 outer turrets. Where we look for this team to grow is transitioning to those tier 2s. Their mid-game rotations have always been a problem for them. And don't even get us started on late game as an accessory to that mid game. Can they show us that they have learned something here against Team WE, a team that is notoriously well known for turtling?
But to be honest, I feel like if LGD just play the split push game and have Orianna constantly pressuring towers, it's actually very hard for WE to full-on engage. The problem they have with their team composition is that as long as the Orianna ball is dropped on the ground, Gentle cannot go forward. Yeah. He will take the shockwave to the face. So if W want to make any plays, it's going to have to be through global play. It's going to have to be Talia wall with Stand United. basically impossible for them to walk in onto LGD.
Or perhaps a counterplay if LGD overextend and make a mistake, such as pushing for top tier 1 and taking Rift Herald at the same time. Flash Shadow Dash, but PYL with the quick save. Chains of Corruption catches him. The God of Death is set to walk away from this as Y4 with the auto. Finishes off missing with the Ignite, Teleport, and Cannon Barrage. Flash gets Gentle away, and the Weaver's Wall knocks Gentle into Yuki. As WE panic, scrambling over each other to escape, but escape they do, losing only missing.
And a great 3v2 outplay coming out from LGD. I'm sorry, not PYL. Y4 even held on to his Shockwave. That's the interaction I was talking about. It's so hard for Gentle to really move up and be the main damage dealer of his team and finish those kills.
Ooh, that's the Shockwave.
Oh, wow.
Yuki gets the Wombo. Shie somehow survives. Walking away with that Stand United. Yuki walks up onto Gentle but can't get in there. Tries to sidestep. Somehow is still alive throughout all of this along with Shie. Another charge from Shelly as she dies and Condi walks away with his life. Somehow 957 is the only one who dies, but lots of red health bars.
Yeah, there's just not much that W can do to defend at this point. They already expended their major disengage ultimates in the previous catch. That didn't work for them, and LGD still had so much ammo left. They had the combination full up, ready to go, and then just went for it. Really good sidestepping by Yuki as well to dodge out on most of the damage of Condi.
Getting out of that threaded volley and then just standing still behind the Weaver's wall, or sorry, the wind wall. There's the knockup again. Shockwave starts things off, and somehow throughout all of this, 957 is the only one who dies. Well, I suppose that'll do it. Walking into 4 people, generally not advisable, regardless of your Mundo status.
He did it for his team.
He did. We take those sacrifices.
If you watch the trailer for the LPL, what 957 says is that this team needs sacrifice.
Yeah. Well, maybe not literal sacrifice for Team WE. 3,500 gold behind LGD, but again, that's gold that's on the map for Team WE. If they're ever able to respond and take turrets with the Mountain Dragon that they have, that can even up that gold differential. But now it's up to LGD to try and snowball this early advantage. They've got the Phantom Dancer. Looks like we're seeing Asterix next out of Yuki as he's pushing in minion wave after minion wave into 957. Happily using that Conquerors to trade it once again, but look who else is coming. Y4 and PYL are on their way to this bottom lane for the next wave. That Orianna is the main sieging tool for LGD.
And this is why Yasuo with Conquerors becomes so popular, because the amount of true damage you do in the late game, 35%, lets you go through tanks so easily. Even without a teleport, you can apply enough pressure to be a split pusher, to be a side lane split pusher in this sense. So for WE, I feel like the window for their composition to work has already passed. The way they want to play is with their poke composition and is with their globals. It's a very EDG-esque type of team composition where they have good siege and they have good mobility. The problem now when you're losing and you're so far behind is that you're confined to such a small space on the map that your globals don't matter anymore. Yeah. So I hate to say it because it's so early on, it's pre-20 minutes, but I feel like this game is almost a foregone conclusion for WE.
Oof. It's going to be tough for them to turn it around, but they do have that Varus. He's got Blade of the Ruined King and looks to be going for a Zeal item second, so perhaps we could see the late game crit Varus build for massive damage.
Just think about this. How do you start a fight on WE's side?
Chain of Corruption, Sleepy Trouble Bubble, Flash Shadow Dash.
But LGD don't really need to be in range for that, and they can have the Tom Kench just gobble someone up and get away from them.
Unless it is Tom Kench you're looking for. Let us not forget, there is a PYL in this game.
PYL is a miracle maker.
Not for his own team, it should be noted. As Amy will be taking the Cloud Dragon. I mean, it's not an elegant strategy, but it could be something.
Yeah, it could be. I think PYL is smart enough to dodge that, though. Look at his item build. He already has the QSS ready.
Yep.
So he knows that he's probably the only real weak point on the team in terms of the setting up for sieges. I mean, they even have the disengage of the barrels and also actually just the barrels because both of them use barrels, but it's so hard for W to walk up on this comp, and I just feel like LGD, this is the time to really check in on how they play the map. Can they set up position correctly between two lanes and set up a side lane push for Yuki? Or are they just going to do this and wander in with PYL?
Yeah, that's exactly what we see.
That's how they lose.
We just talked about it. PYL, thank you so much for giving us a demonstration as it occurred. You can even see a deep ward line set up by WE just in case 957 were to look for a deep teleport. There's still a ward just on top of that one by that honeydew fruit. And then another one just below in the what was once known as Banana Brush by Baron. But 22 minutes into the game, LGD, they're still taking it nice and slow. Jinnu is setting up those side waves. And now we've got Amy moving together. Whoa,
wow.
Look at that vision. Okay, so this is LGD's vision. That is WE's vision. You can see they've got 2 wards in front of the Baron.
W are actually fine. They have very good vision control. They're never going to have to face check Baron with this setup. It's up to LGD to really push them out, and the way they should do it is threaten the Yasuo combo.
Well, there you go. Yasuo shows himself in lane. Amy is hanging out with PYL.
Once he has his lane pushed, he should move towards the bottom side, try to meet up with Gragas or be in range for the R. So make sure there's this big circle of death where they could instantly chain anyone.
And that's it right there. That's the flick and the shove onto Yuki. He gets chunked down to half health, doesn't have a lot of regeneration. So decides to recall and go back to base instead. Kandi, acting as a human ward, stands inside of the brush to fill the role that WE need.
Oh, he's going to be more than a ward. If you look at his CS numbers, he's pretty much the only winning lane for W right now. And late game Talia does do a lot of damage.
Amy is there with the flash body slam. Perhaps might be looking for Missing or Gentle if they step forward, but they play it safe in the lane, and Amy decides to let him go as Yuki makes his way back into the mid. And now Missing is going to try clearing out all of these wards that have been left by LGD through their earlier pass. So it does end up being 2 minutes of mostly vision control as Missing. He's all by his lonesome here. If LGD were a bit more enterprising, they might have been able to find him.
They saw the recalls. They saw the recalls. WE not going for a super risky play, but I just want to pull attention to the pings that we just saw LGD do. They're going for both of the side lanes at once, trying to go for a 1-3-1. Definitely having their targets on those outers.
Yeah, split up the map a little bit, see if WE will fall to that. And again, WE, the team that went to World Semis last year, yes, they had an aggressive early and mid game with Kandi coming into the roster, but before that, this was a team that was the 35-minute Elder Dragon team, the Turtle team. They would wait until 35 minutes. They would fight you in front of either Baron or Elder Dragon, and they would win the game that way. If they're able to defend and stall this game out, they could be hearkening back to their roots with this strategy as LGD. They commit 3 members bottom to look for 957. All they get is a flash.
And this is such a good play from LGD. They understand that with the Tahm Kench, the 1-3-1 would be the best setup. They can go to both sides instantly. At 1.5 seconds, Abyssal Voyage is done, and they get an outer turret for it. So, really good macro call for them. Smart on Gangplank to hold the wave a little bit, get that distance for them to make that Abyssal Voyage play, and they're probably rewarded for it.
That tier 2 now taking 4 turrets to 0, a creative play. And already nearly half of the cooldown on that Abyssal Voyage is back up if they were to set up in another lane and try to do the exact same thing. But she is starting to step up and get some big hits with these paddle starts. Ludens and the Zanyas. And a good wind wall used very early on, but an exhaust now used by that Spell Thief. Just trying to deny some of that Yasuo damage, lock him down, but just constantly shoving in wave after wave. It looks like bottom is pushing in favor of LGD and Abyssal Voyage. It's nearly back up. 2/3 of the way there.
LGD are just waiting at this point once they have the side lanes pushed. Unfortunately, they don't have the top lane in the correct position they want.
Oh, that's a bit awkward.
But the bot lane should be going into their favor.
Amy's looking for the long flank, but even just by standing aside, by pulling Kandi out of the way, Gentle and Shia can't step up into the minion wave, and LGD break down another tier 2 turret without Baron against Team WE.
It's just so hard to repel the siege when they have the wind wall. It lasts for 3.2 seconds. So You know, it's a lot of sieging time, and once they have that set up, oh, wait a minute.
There they go. They're looking for the chase. The shockwave is used early to try and pull Condi off. A cask finds Missing, but the cannon barrage goes in. Missing goes low, and now he goes down. Teleport activated and canceled by 957, but PYL, he uses the Abyssal Voyage to join in with his team as WE's play gets deftly turned back on its head. A barrel laid down by Jinnu, and immediately you can see Yuki goes in, forced to flash back. A defensive wind wall. PYL scoops that Yasuo up and carries him away. As
Probably
LGD
not worth it.
perhaps go a little bit too far, a little bit further than they anticipated.
Can we call that missing in action?
That was missing in action.
Yeah, it was a good play from WE, again using their globals for catch potential, but an even better flash out from Y4. He dodges not only the Shen taunt, but also the knockback coming in from Condi as well.
Oh man, and look at this, WE. The next dragon had to be another mountain. Amy is there. He doesn't have flash, but he still casts over the wall. PYL can save him, and he just walks up, smites it, and leaves.
Son of Baron, you say? Well, this objective clearly is not a Baron.
Yeah, don't have to worry about that one. At this point, I feel like we should be calling Condi the estranged son of Baron, because it's been a while since we've seen that dominant control from WE around the pit, steals or not, out of Team WE. And now Missing, he tries to get another defensive Baron gate ward, but with 2 tier 2s broken, Jinnu still with his teleport, and now that cannon barrage almost on cooldown. Things are looking real dire for Team WE.
And we can see how LGD plans to do their next siege. They're probably going to do what they just did, group up 4-1, make sure one of the side lanes is pushing, have the wind wall in front, and there's not much W can do to you.
Ooh, it's real tough. Jinnu's pushing bottom. He's got a wave prepped. We still see defensive ward lines out of Team WE, but they can't see into the pit itself. And they still don't have full vision on Team LGD because of how relentless they are sweeping out the wards of WE wherever they are moving. So WE are operating without complete information.
WE are pretty much resigned to their own towers at this point. They can't even walk past the Krug Rush because an Abyssal Voyage could instantly go onto them. But they do know that this Baron is being taken.
Yeah, Y4 is doing a lot of damage. That Mountain Dragon is contributing a lot as well. PYL is zoning along with Jinnu. Missing is there. That's a redemption being utilized. They spot it out, plus the cannon barrage. PYL gets flicked in. He goes down. But Condi looks like he might die as well. Jinnu's doing a lot of work over here. 957 looking for the flank, but they've already got the Baron. LGD do not need to fight.
All right, PYL, I don't blame him for that death, but I do blame him for not sweeping that ward because WE always places that ward.
Yeah.
We've seen it in every game. They fall behind in basically every series, and they're able to drag things out just with that single ward right outside of the Baron pit. So I think if you're playing up against WE, if the casters can tell you that, you should know about that. You should really make it a priority to scan that area. But, you know, good zoning for him.
I agree, Clement. I feel like everyone should listen to what we say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We're the best LPL cast. Probably the only LPL casters, but...
in English, at the very least. We've got that going for us, which is nice. But hey, WE, I mean, they're looking for stability in this, but they are just getting rocked by LGD, who have cleaned up their mid-game problems. PYL, I believe so far only once this game we've seen him go on a solo warding mission, and luckily Shihei wasn't able to kill him. So already, LGD seems like they might finally be trying to turn over a new leaf against Team WE.
And I have to say, it didn't have to go this way. I don't think W's composition is that bad where it would collapse naturally, but the bot lane pressure was so overwhelming from LGD. They got ahead really fast in the matchup, and then they got a 12-minute mid-turret. I think those two were the death kneels for WE. They had a winning bot lane at the start of the game. The ganks really changed that. And then Talia farmed a lot, but didn't really influence Zoe, didn't put her ahead. And this is the result that we're seeing.
Yeah, Morellonomicon and only those Runic Echoes on Condi. 1-0 and 1. 50 CS ahead of Amy, but not able to have an impact from the defensive side, as LGD are simply just outmaneuvering. I can't believe I'm saying this.
Yeah, I know.
LGD are outmaneuvering Team WE with calm macro play around turrets and barons. They've taken all of the outer turrets, all of the inner turrets. They've still got the baron for 80 seconds. They're actually holding this wave to let it build up, I believe, into a double cannon. Let's see if Yuki decides to clear this one out. No, he's still just zoning. They're trying to go for a big push onto this inhibitor turret while Jinnu is pushing bottom along with Amy.
That's such a great play. A really smart one, because they can deny all damage with Wind Wall. So it's better if you have a bigger wave and it comes in all at once.
Well, there goes the Weaver's Wall, and it will catch that minion, but it's not enough to break it down. Shockwave will whiff, but here goes the cannon, starting to fire across. 957 and missing steps forward. Cleanse, PYL gets knocked up. You keep the target. He goes golden, spins out the Yasuo, who immediately gets slept on. Goes in on the last breath and still gets the Wombo combo. That's 2 kills, and they continue to chase it down into a third. Xie leaping away, gets body slammed and slowed, but 957 in the midst of LGD flashes the wall, dies to a homing auto attack. And LGD have not lost a... LGD, losing only 1 member, have killed 4 members of Team WE.
WE had to cut you off right there, you know, get a little bit of respect there.
It had to be something.
But Yuki, with such a massive outplay, they do get the, I believe it was the Q3 into the double knockup onto the carries. Condi and Gentle dying. Gentle with his flash still up in that case.
Oh, and they're even going for the ace. Yuki gets the kill, 2-0 and 4. Y4 at 6-0 and 5. Mapengu says Y4 as he drops the Nexus. And they defeat Team WE in game 1.
And PYL with the Kench emote as well. Just rubbing salt on the wound. This is the calmest play we've ever seen LGD play. I think it's the best game we've seen all split.
Yeah. Yeah. Against Team WE. They went to semis, Clement. They went to semis.
Are you sure it wasn't EDG? I know, it was WE that went to semis, but WE is a different team right now.
They
have
are.
to admit
they really are. I mean, look at the fans. They're still cheering on, hoping for the memory of what that WE was, but it's time we can look at the truth of what this team actually is. They just got smashed by LGD, historically one of the worst teams in LPL history, who are now in the middle of a huge upswing.
Yeah, and just look at that gold graph there. There was no hitches for LGD. WE could not find their way back into the game once they lost. They had a composition that had a very high focus onto the bottom lane, with the Talia coming down, with the Zoe coming down, and with the Varus CC chain. But unfortunately, LGD took control of that early game, and then they had this genius rotation that took away mid as well. And WE just, they couldn't find any footing anymore.
Yep. Condi just not responding with the Weaver's Wall, perhaps, or some sort of rotation was out of place. But tragedy for Team WE that they now find themselves in this situation, dropping that game 1. But it's time for our analysts to break down that LGD win.
Thanks, guys. And yes, LGD picked up a victory against semi-finalists of the World Championship last year, Rusty. So the question is, LG, are they on the rise once again? Once again, another split, another rise for LGD. Is this their time?
They're on the Oriana, Fish, so let's just move on, shall we? Bring up the draft, please. I'm done with Fish. No, they're not. They are 1-0 in this best-of-3 series, and it was actually a very good 1-0 with that. I was impressed. I was very surprised by how clean that they were, and speaking backstage with FLICKR and before this set, the one thing that seems to be consistent here is that they can get all the outer turrets, but once those are down and there is an open battlefield, they just lose their minds and lose the game. But that didn't happen at all. Yeah, for LGD. That didn't happen at all. They get the inners, they rotate cleanly, and they looked really, really good.
Well, let's start with how they set up to take down these outer turrets, because we saw repetitive attempts to go for dives in the bottom lane, which actually kept Condi occupied for some time. And there were very clean attempts coming out from LGD to take down outer turrets and to start early game advantages.
And a lot of this started with the mid lane, actually. When you look at the draft specifically being an a Yasuo Gragas again. That was the thing that Vici wanted to have, that Vici couldn't be, that LGD were, and even more so, they improved on it, they iterated, they became the best version of it. It starts with getting control of mid. Once you've got control of mid, you get the kill, or not even get the kill, Xie magically surviving, they still get pressure in the lane. That frees up your Yasuo to go to the bottom lane. And once you've got 4 people threatening down there for that dive, there is no option here for WE to defend this turret. But more importantly, when all of that happens and you've got the 4 members here, just watch PYL and Y4. Because their juggling of turret aggro and dodging of spells here was immaculate. The ability to survive through that dive just sets them up to succeed here. And Amy, of course, comes in to hit it home. They get themselves those kills. That's clean from LGD. And that is set up minutes in advance by Amy having pressure. That relates to the turret going down a couple of minutes later from the Yasuo being freed up. And then their bottom lane comes to mid lane to break that one. And from there, the game's actually over. When you look at their composition, they get a lead that much, they can end in mid-game.
So this is where they're able to take down all the outer turrets. How did they capitalize on that and take down the inner turrets afterwards? That's commonly where we see them falter.
Yeah, a lot of this to me was, so I don't think WE had a real clear-cut plan in mind. The Mundo is not going to be an engaged tool, he's just going to come in late. Gangplank had more presence. When you have the Talia, the Flick can engage, or the Varus ultimate can be engaged tools, but it's a pick and flick type of composition. It's not an engaged style, and it's not a disengaged style, which is what Snake used in their attempts against what was the Wombo to beat that one across in a 5v5 sense. So WE, I don't think they had answers, and I think that LGD's composition here, once ahead, will always be able to press further and further forwards, just by pure threat of having a Yasuo with a Gragas and an Orianna with a Yasuo, as well as those two major Wombos to dive turrets. That's where Orianna comes in super clutch. It's where Y4 on one of his best picks so far this split comes in mega clutch, and all you have to do is place the ball next to the turret and just watch as WE know that they can't even go near it, because if they do, they die.
Well, we kind of saw that in one of the final few fights where they were so far ahead, they were able to dive through inhibitor turrets, able to dive past the inhibitor and actually take fights to WE that late into the match where they simply couldn't defend anymore.
Yeah, and this was after the Shockwave missed at the start of that fight as well. So you do come into that last big replay of what happens in that middle lane, the thing that ends the entire game here for LGD. They were far enough ahead by this point that you'll get to see it. They just throw everything at one another. The fight was desperation from WE. Then you still get that Yasuo combo coming in on the last part of it as well, knocking, I believe, himself getting the tornado there to knock them all up. And even without an Orianna Shockwave, LGD show that composition can still excel.
I mean, everyone from the side of LGD played this one fantastically. At the end of that fight, by the way, everyone from LGD escaped alive, as Dom was trying to say during the cast itself. Don't let that stopwatch fool you. But everyone from LGD did play well. Amy had an exceptional performance, though. He picked up MVP off the back of that game and was the clear catalyst to setting up these set plays for LGD.
Yeah, Amy is someone having a fantastic split. And, you know, if we're going to compare him to splits prior, absolutely this has been an improvement. But even then, he has been playing up to the occasion. LGD haven't been winning games, but Amy has been getting kills. He's been getting successful ganks. And the team has had a good early game, and I would say mostly around this guy. And that is just so miraculous to actually say.
Why so?
Well, LGD for the past 3 years, their weak point's always been their jungler. And Amy was always that person who you would look at and you're like, man, this guy underperforming. I feel like, you know, another jungler would do wonders for this team. You give them someone like the Condi, and then maybe LGD are a top 4 team and pushing further. But it seems like roles have reversed here, where Amy, just by persisting with the team, has become the star player. And LGD looking like a good team in moments.
Experience over time. He's had quite some time to actually work with LGD to become one of their star players. Yeah. And this match played very well. But it's still a best-of-3 series, and WE still have a chance. We're going to go into a break. Back with Game 2 in just a bit.
不破不立，只有经历巨变，老干爹才能重获新生。